In order to understand unemployment, we must understand the three statistics which are sometimes used in respect of unemployment. And the two most commonly used are the jobless total and the claimant count. Now, the jobless total is based on a survey called the Labour Market Survey. It's published quarterly, and it basically asks a certain number of people out of the country, are you looking for work? It's not an accurate figure because it is an estimate based on a survey. On the other hand, I'm not aware that there's any reason to think that it's a wildly inaccurate statistic. The claimant count is the number of people who, at any one point in time, are claiming benefits because they are unemployed and looking for work. We used to have job seekers allowance. Before that we had unemployment benefit, and we now got universal credit, which covers other situations than just looking for work. But basically it's not too hard for the government to work out how many people each month are claiming benefits because they're looking for work. It ought to be a very accurate figure, but unfortunately it's a figure which is easily manipulated. I'm not saying it's being manipulated at the moment, but there are ways to get people off benefits, possibly getting onto another form of benefit for a short period of time, just so they're no longer in the claimant count. That's happened in this country before. I'm not saying it's happening at the moment. So how to interpret these two statistics? Firstly, let's say the jobless total is 1 million people, and in the last quarter it's fallen by 40,000. So divide 1 million by 40,000, and we come up with a figure of 25. And what that tells us is that if unemployment keeps falling at the current rate, then we will have full employment in 25 quarters from now, which is roughly 6 years. Likewise with the claimant count. If we can say the claimant count is 800,000 people, and that last month it fell by 10,000, we divide 800,000 by 10,000, and we get a figure of 80. And that tells us that if unemployment keeps falling at the current rate, then the claimant count will be 0 in 80 months from now, which is roughly 7 years. And those figures might sound very optimistic, but unfortunately we never get to full employment, or have not done so that I can remember. And one of the reasons why is because we sometimes have recessions, and even when we're not in recessions we might occasionally have times when unemployment rises. So I think the challenge for any government has to be to try and achieve full employment between now and the next recession, whenever that recession happens. Ideally recession shouldn't happen, but we live in the real world. If we don't achieve full employment between now and the next recession, then you're just perpetuating this permanent underclass of people who are unemployed, not just year after year, but decade after decade, in many cases. Now the third statistic is the number of vacancies in the economy, and this is a very misleading statistic. It's not often used, but sometimes government ministers will use it to try and persuade us they're not doing such a bad job after all. There are two reasons why the number of vacancies in the economy is misleading. Firstly, because vacancies should only be counted if they are, if you like, realistic vacancies, a vacancy that people might apply for. A company I once worked for advertised a job which was commission only. As far as I'm aware, nobody applied. And while a lot of people in this country do commission only work, many people will not take that kind of job. So it's easy to say, oh yeah, my company's got loads of vacancies, but if they're for commission only work, then you might actually get nobody applying, or very few people applying. So we need to consider the extent to which vacancies exist in the economy are actually realistic vacancies that people might want to apply for. The second reason why we should be suspicious of the number of vacancies in the economy is because it doesn't take into consideration the number of redundancies. At any one moment in time, employers in one part of the economy are taking on more staff, but other employers elsewhere in the economy are laying off staff, and the one can do a pretty good job of cancelling out the other. If 50,000 vacancies exist and 40,000 people are being made redundant at the same time, then the fall is only 10,000, net fall. So that's a statistic you have to be very, very suspicious of, and any government minister who uses that statistic is probably trying to mislead you about how well the government is doing.